We are officially into the NFL offseason league-wide. Before we were talking about the offseason for teams not in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, but now the Super Bowl has been played and it's officially the NFL offseason. And of course, we're going to be talking about free agency and training camps and mini camps and the draft. But right now, we're skipping ahead a little bit here towards more of the NFL draft talk, as Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, the runner-up Heisman winner and one of the best players in college football, hinted that he may want to be playing for the Saints and be drafted by them in this upcoming draft. Now, it is out of his control where he ends up going, but that doesn't mean he can't have a preference of where he ends up going, and we'll be taking a look at these subtle hints today. And before we get into that, make sure to subscribe to my channel. We're trying to hit 10K this year. 72% of you who watch these videos aren't subscribed. It takes 5 seconds, it's free, and it helps the channel out a lot. And let me know down in the comments if you think the Saints should draft Ashton Jeanty. And with that being said, let's dive into whether or not this could possibly work. When it comes to the NFL draft, the New Orleans Saints currently hold the 9th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And as usual, every team around the NFL is going to have positions on their team that they're wanting to draft for need. We need a running back, we need a quarterback, we need D-line or offensive lineman, safety. Every team has a set position and set needs on their team that they want to address in the draft or free agency. But for the Saints, that need is really everything. They could draft damn near every and any position on the roster in this draft because they need to just get talented players on the roster, because man, have they struggled to draft well and get good players on their team. They could draft a quarterback, a running back, offensive line, defensive line, receiver, tight end, safety, corner. There's not a position on this team that they should not be trying to fix in this upcoming draft. With new head coach Kellen now though, I'm interested to see how the approach will be in the draft compared to how it was with Dennis Allen and Sean Payton prior to him. Will he address more playmakers and skill positions more than Sean Payton did? Will he address offensive line? Will the scouting be differently? Will they still be drafting guys with high athletic scores? I'm really interested to see this approach. And while he still does need to hire his coordinators, I'm interested to see too if he hires like Brandon Staley or hires a defensive coordinator who runs a 3-4 defense. Are they going to be drafting outside linebacker, edge rushers? How different is their approach at drafting on the defensive line, the player prototypes? All of this really changes up. One guy in this draft though that has a lot of attention his way and is expected to go in the first round is running back Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. Saints head coach Kellen was asked about Ashton Jeanty during Super Bowl Media Week on Radio Row. And when he was asked about Ashton Jeanty, Ross Jackson said that he spoke very highly of Ashton Jeanty when he was asked about him, and other people mentioned like it was kind of bland answers, wasn't giving a whole lot of info when he was asked certain questions. And when he was asked about Ashton Jeanty, he got super excited, was talking about him, kind of lit up and was all smiles when talking about him. Clearly, he really likes Ashton Jeanty. I don't know if that's because he's a good player or if it's because there's a Boise State connection, but it's something to note that new head coach Kellen went to Boise, had a lot of good things to say about this Boise State running back, and now the guy who had just had a 2,000-yard rusher has an opportunity to possibly draft a guy who had 2,000 rushing yards in college this past season. And maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea being able to team up Jeanty with Kellen who just had Saquon Barkley run for 2,000 yards and have the most yards in a single season in NFL history, including the postseason. Granted though, the offensive line is a huge difference between the Saints and the Eagles. But if the Saints could get a talented player in the building, and Ashton Jeanty is the best player available, just get him. But I think you would definitely like to see the offensive line get filled out a little bit more before you spend a 9th overall pick on a running back. But a good player is a good player regardless of where you pick him. During Super Bowl week as well, Saints running back and Saints legendary running back Mark Ingram, who the Saints spent a first-round pick on in 2011, was on the Kate Adams show and was asked about what he thinks the Saints should do at the 9th overall pick. And he mentioned Ashton Jeanty. Let's see what Mark Ingram had to fully say. There you go.
When I see you, I gotta say I see Alvin Kamara. You know,
Yeah.
he's like this little shadowy figure next to you eating Airheads. He had a great season.
He did.
Despite missing games. I feel like we need a little boom zoom though.
Was 50 yards shy of 1,000 yards, man. It sucks.
There needs to be, the Saints have that 9th overall pick. What do you think they should do with it?
Man, I think you're seeing how pivotal the running back position is.
Yes.
And
true. The league is valuing running backs greatly now. Derrick Henry's getting paid. Saquon Barkley got paid heavily. Joe Mixon got paid heavily. Alvin Kamara got an extension. Running back is becoming a valuable position in the NFL again, and not just something that teams draft, playing for 3 years, and then draft the replacement in the endless cycle. Running backs are being valued again.
And give my guy AK, he's getting up there in 9 years. Give him a little break so he can be healthy the whole year. Maybe you go running back. Maybe you go and pair him with Ashton Jeanty.
Mark Ingram. Of course he wants Ashton Jeanty, but I'm not mad at the idea of pairing him up with the AK, get another boom and zoom type of situation. We've been wanting Alvin Kamara to have some help at the running back position for a long time. Ever since really, 18 when Mark Ingram left. They had Latavius Murray in there for a little bit. He was a good 1-2 punch, but wasn't so much of a dynamic duo. Then they drafted Kendre Miller. He's had some injury issues. So really, they do need to get Alvin Kamara some help.
Oh, snap!
What you think about that?
Tell me on that,
What
because
you
I don't
think
know
about
much
that?
about him. Tell me.
Ashton Jeanty is just a beast, man. He has juice. He can run the ball inside, run the ball outside, comes out the backfield, catches it. So why not have another two-headed monster so my boy AK could be thriving again?
Two-headed monster. I'm not opposed to having another two-headed monster and spending a draft pick on a skill position player, especially a guy who was the runner-up for Heisman and just had 2,000 rushing yards in college. After this clip was posted and made its rounds around Saints Twitter and kind of went not viral, but viral within the Saints community, pages on Instagram and on social media made graphics putting the quote from Mark Ingram saying that they should team Jeanty and Alvin Kamara up. And what would you know, Ashton Jeanty would end up liking one of these posts saying to team him up with Alvin Kamara right here, liked by Ashton Jeanty, Boom and Zoom 2.0, swipe for more, and then it has the video of Mark Ingram saying to team him up. Ashton Jeanty, I believe, has unliked this since, but he did like this post saying to team him up with Alvin Kamara. It's important to note, though, that Ashton Jeanty is a huge Alvin Kamara fan. He was on a stream a while back and was asked about who his favorite running back in the NFL is, and he said Alvin Kamara. Let me pull up that video real quick. There's not really much to see. It's like a 15-second clip, and really all he says is Alvin Kamara, but we do need to pull it up.
That's lit, bro. Favorite NFL running back? Alvin Kamara.
Said that confidently too. Didn't really have to think about it for too long. It was like 3 seconds.
Favorite NFL running back? Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, like 3-4 seconds. Said that confidently. Alvin Kamara fan. So I don't know how much of that is him wanting to team up and play with Alvin Kamara, which is why he liked that post, or how much of it is he wants to play for the Saints, or if it's just AK. I'm not really too sure, but I don't think it's nothing. I think players coming into the draft maybe have their preference of where they would like to go, but ultimately they don't have really a say in where they get drafted. I'm just trying to see all angles here. Is he a guy who wants to play with Alvin Kamara, or is he a guy who wants to play for the Saints? Or is he just liking this post because he thinks it's a cool idea? I'm not too sure, but I don't think it could be taken as something lightly. Another thing I'll mention is the Saints absolutely could use another running back, and I don't care what people have to say, it's straight up true. When you look at the Saints running back room, they got Jamal Williams, who could possibly be cut, and really you can't rely on him for anything. Jordan Mims, a non-factor. Kendre Miller, talented, but you can't rely on him. Alvin Kamara just signed an extension with the Saints, but he's going to be 30 years old. You can't rely on him forever. He's going to be declining at some point. And the Saints did also re-sign Clyde Edwards-Helaire to a 1-year deal after a final 2-game stint with the Saints near the end of the season. He looked solid in those 2 games, but he's not a guy who I think you can rely on to be a number 1-2 punch. Maybe a good additional guy, but not a guy who you want to give the ball to a whole lot. But that was the first move that Kellen made as the Saints head coach. But when you look at the Saints running back room, it really is missing something. And when you look at the Saints rushing yards and rushers over the past few years, the number 2 guy has typically been Taysom Hill. But now there's speculation that Taysom Hill could be out of New Orleans in 2025. Ian Rappaport has said a few times he has a hard time seeing Taysom Hill back on the Saints in 2025. And losing him, you lose a huge element of your running game. So then you desperately would need to draft a running back in this draft. I think regardless of whether or not you keep Taysom Hill or not, you need to be drafting a running back. I'm not going to go fully too detailed into this. I have a video covering the Taysom Hill situation. If you want to go check that out, then go check that video out. But I say all of this to basically say, if you don't think the Saints could use another running back, politely you are wrong and we can agree to disagree. But you have a 30-year-old running back. The guy who you spent a 3rd round pick on isn't reliable and can't stay healthy. Jamal Williams should definitely be cut. Jordan Mims isn't reliable. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a solid number 3 option. And Taysom Hill, ACL tear, 35 years old, and may not be back on the team next season. And if he is, who knows what he'll be able to do coming off a huge injury and how much time he'll miss. Running back is most definitely something that needs to be addressed in the draft. The Saints overall just need talented guys. The position obviously matters, but they just need talented guys at any and every position. And if at pick 9, Ashton Jeanty is the best player available, you pick Ashton Jeanty because he's the best player available. And if he's not, and you can go draft Tyler Warren because he's the best player available, then you pick him. The Saints just overall need to get talented guys on the roster. Now, it would suck to take a running back at 9 and not see the offensive line be as great as you would want it to be, but still, a good player is a good player, and Kellen would find a way to get him the ball in space creatively. Let me know down in the comments below if you think the Saints should draft Ashton Jeanty. Do you think that he wants to come to the Saints, or is this an Alvin Kamara desire, like he just wants to play with his favorite running back? Let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, and I'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Peace.